As we call on Pastor Dwayne Smith, Abundant Life Church, for this evening's invocation.
Jesus, we thank you so much for this wonderful day that we've had. We recognize you. We take a moment to recognize your sovereignty and your reign. Father, tonight as we gather together, we recognize that when we are weak, you are strong. We're praying favor upon Fergus. We're praying favor upon the proceedings tonight. Jesus, we need your help. We need your direction. We're praying for commerce. We're praying for people. But Father, we pray that your wisdom happen here tonight, Father. We ask, Father, for the blessings of God as we humble ourselves before you, recognizing that all good things come from you. We thank you for it. It's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We'll call this November 7th, 2016 City Council meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Here.
Here.
Here. Here. Here. Here.
Yeah. We have a quorum. The next item is approval of this evening's agenda, and I'll call on Andrew to make a couple of additions here.
Yeah, thank you, Your Honor, and members of the council. We do have a few late additions to the agenda that came up today. Under old business, item M, we're going to include an update on summer of 2016 projects. City Engineer Brian Ybarra will be giving us an update on the status of our summer projects. And then under new business, the first item is authorization to award isolated roof repair quotes for the RTC. Again, authorization to award isolated roof repair quotes for the RTC. And then the second item under new business will be a discussion about 411 East Junius Avenue.
Thank you. Are there any other items of business to place on the agenda?
I'll
If not,
offer a motion, Your Honor.
Offer that motion, thank you.
Approve the agenda.
Second, Justin. All in favor of the agenda as amended, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion is carried. The agenda is approved. There are no public hearings this evening. Under bids, item E, we have Public Improvement 9697, City Hall Lobby Remodeling Project. And I'll call on Brian, is it, or Rolf?
Probably Brian.
Brian? For discussion.
Yes, thank you. Good evening, Your Honor. At the last Finance and Personnel Development Committee, recommendation was presented in regards to Public Improvement 9697, the City Hall Lobby Remodel Project. We received a total of 4 bids. J.S. Cates Construction was the apparent low bidder at that time. The contractor did the post-interview, was conducted by Schultz & Associates. They have included their letter of recommendation, and they also noted a voluntary deduct in the bid that was also acknowledged by the second low bidder at the time, which was $14,144. So at this time, I'm requesting the award of construction services contract to J.S. Cates Construction in the amount of $143,856.09.
Any questions? Would someone offer that?
I want to hear from Rolf first about the letter he sent out.
Okay. Members of the council and mayor, I sent a memo to you last week kind of outlining the Minnesota municipal contracting law that talks about a little bit about the competitive bidding process and kind of what issues that present themselves when you have very close bids and what you can and cannot necessarily consider when it comes to awarding a project. To start off with, the bids before you, you can either accept a bid or you can reject them all. So, I mean, that's the first decision you have to make, is whether you wish to move forward with a resolution to either accept a bid or reject all bids. If you move forward with a decision to consider a bid and you would like to order a project, then the law basically requires that you take a look at and award the project to what is known as the lowest responsible bidder. And the lowest responsible bidder isn't always necessarily the lowest bidder. It's the lowest responsible bidder when all things are equal between contractors. You are obligated by the law to look at the lowest bid then. But in order, I spell out some of the things that differentiate what a responsible bidder is, and basically courts have interpreted the responsibility of a bidder to mean their financial responsibility, their integrity, their skill, and the likelihood of performing satisfactorily, promptly, and providing quality work. And this has been the standard for decades. It was since 1951 where the Supreme Court stated that a city may consider, in addition to the price, the quality and suitability, and in doing so the city's discretion must be based on substantial differences in quality and adaptability between bidders. Basically what this means is that if the city does have discretion to award the bid to an entity that is not the lowest bidder only if there are substantial differences in quality or adaptability between the bidders, and I don't believe that what our engineer has indicated, that there are any substantial differences of that like between the bids that have been received. And that's been reviewed by the architect firm and has been confirmed to that. So after considering the responsibility of the bidders, the council can either reject all the bids or award the contract to the lowest responsible bidder. And if you decide to deviate from that, you should have some articulated reasons why. But in this instance, it doesn't appear that there would be any basis to differentiate between bidders.
Thank you.
Your Honor.
Yes, Scott?
So we could reject all the bids because they're 10% over what the estimate is?
That would be a reason that you could reject bids.
Correct.
Do you feel comfortable if we went with that, Brian?
You know, we haven't, through the post-interview, there's identified a few items. However, we have not did that comparison thoroughly in such a manner to identify what those potential savings could be in that. So there's always potential savings. There's value engineering and everything. But yes, as it stands right now, approximately 10% over from the engineer's estimate.
What would you prefer, Jim?
Your Honor, I will offer the resolution to go with Brian's recommendation.
Awarding the bid to,
It's J.S. Cates Construction.
yeah.
Your Honor.
All right, thank you. Any comments?
One question. So if, in a case, if the bids were all rejected and, well, what costs it to the city to rebid, approximately to rebid the project?
That really depends on the basis and how we're rejecting it. If, you know, the comparisons cost. In this instance, I would look at the engineer's estimate, and that was, the cost estimate was developed by our architects. So based on their prices and everything. So at that point, I think we would have some costs for advertising. Once again, we have those hard costs that we have to, or excuse me, those soft costs that we have to pay for and everything. But as I indicated, we'd have to look back at the project plans and see what those savings could be or how significant it would affect the project as is right now. This was the second time this project was bid. The first bid was of last year. We really went back to the drawing board, for lack of better terms, to get to just the administration area right there is what this project is considering right now.
Ron?
Okay. Timeline on, as Ben said, if we were to, you know, reject these bids, what does that do to our timeline on completing the project?
I would have to get back to you on that because we would have to identify some potential savings, redevelop, revise the plans, and then start advertising once again. It's based on that amount, we'd have to do at least a minimum of 10-day advertising up to a 21-day advertisement. So I would, in short, a few months.
And do you know the cost, excuse me, Your Honor, the costs of the bidding, what the advertising costs, what they are approximately?
Not in front of me right now. We use a local paper, we use a regional paper.
My point,
of first class.
my point was simply that if it's 10%, if we could get it down with the 10%, would we be saving something in possibly rebidding, getting it on the number, 10% of the project? How much is the?
The biggest potential cost, would probably be the redesign of the plans and specs and everything. That'd be your most cost. It'd be very comparable.
Okay.
Anthony?
I would say that personally, I think we should go with the program that we have. It's the second time we've bid it. If we go down the road of redesigning it, we're going to spend another $10,000 or $15,000. The whole purpose of having a bid is to get the lowest bid, and just because Comstock is $400 higher this time, next time they may not be, and then it'll be somebody else that's lower. And so I think, in fairness to J.S. Cates and indeed to Comstock, we should go through the program that we have, and that's how we've bid everything in the past. And if we're going to change the rules, then we need to tell people up front that we're going to change the rules every time a bid comes in we don't like, as to where it's going to get nominated. So I will be voting to give it to J.S. Cates.
Jim?
Your Honor, I think if we reject all bids, people are going to know why we rejected it, because a local didn't get it. And then are we going to get good bids after that, or are we going to get any bids other than the local people? So I think we need to go with the program. This has happened before on other jobs around town, and it's just the way it is. They weren't low.
Any other thoughts? Roll call, please.
Albert.
Yes.
Shire.
Yes.
Rachel.
Yes.
Fish.
Yes.
Arneson.
Yes.
Early.
Yes.
Speedo.
Yes.
The resolution
I want to go. Yes.
is approved. Finally.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Item F, under petitions and communications, this evening we have Jane Easties with us from Lakes Country Service Cooperative, who will be presenting their program to us. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, everyone. I am Jane Easties, and I am the Director of Operations at Lakes Country Service Cooperative, and I want to thank you all for giving me a few minutes tonight to just talk to you a little bit in general about Lakes Country. We're actually celebrating our 40th anniversary this year. So we were created in 1976 by the legislature to provide shared services and regional planning services, at that time just to school districts. It wasn't until the early 90s that the growth of our programs became known in the state, and the legislature actually expanded our legislation so that we could provide the same sorts of services to cities and counties and other governmental agencies and nonprofits. And since that time, our growth has exploded. So we would like to just, we were kind of traveling the region and kind of reminding people about the breadth of services that Lakes Country has. Currently, we serve 151 public and nonprofit organizations in a 9-county area. We're actually one of 9 service cooperatives in the state. And we each have our region, and our region is the old Governor's Region 4, the same as West Central Initiative. So we cover Otter Tail, Clay, Wilkin, Becker, Grant, Stevens, Douglas, Traverse, and Polk counties. But of course, we're here in, centrally located in Fergus Falls, and we have just about 100 employees, which I think surprises a lot of people to hear that. Because it's our 40th anniversary, we made the board, and our executive director, Jeremy Kovash, made a concerted decision to look forward. What do we want to look like in the next 40 years? So we're making an effort to connect more deeply and broadly with our membership, and to start getting that input on what the needs are regionally, so we can start building those relationships and those new services. We've created 2 new formal advisory committees. So we have an advisory committee for city counties that is made up of 15 city county staff from across our region. And we have a second advisory new that's with other governmental agencies and nonprofits. And that's in addition to our educational advisory committee. And it actually came from those new advisories that said, we would like you to get out and talk to our elected officials. Tell them what Lakes Country is about. And to give you a little bit more of an idea of what we do, our 100+ employees do every day. We're often called the best kept secret in the region. Most people we find, including our members, may know us by one service, two services. You probably know insurance. Maybe you had a child in Knowledge Bowl, or you were in Knowledge Bowl yourself. But few people we find really know the breadth of what we do. And don't worry, I'm not going to go through every single program here tonight. I'm just going to give you a quick overview. Since we're located in Fergus Falls, and Mayor Leland is an active member of our elected board, you probably know more about us than many of our members. So a lot of this might sound familiar, but hopefully you learned something. And just a reminder that, excuse me, because we were created by the legislature, we are a political subdivision of the state, although we aren't funded by the state. But we do have an elected 11-member board. And our board members are sitting school board members and city council members and county commissioners from across our region. So I'd like to take just a few minutes to highlight some of the bigger buckets of services, and I'd like to kind of highlight those services that are maybe not as well known. And as I go through them, I'd like you to think, maybe hopefully you learn about a service you didn't know, but think about what you don't hear, because part of what we're doing is we'd like to spark that conversation. We'd love for you to come back to us if tomorrow or 6 months from now or a year from now and say, you know, we have this need in our city or across the region. Is there something that we can do to partner or to pull partnerships together to meet a need? So that's part of what we're doing here, is to try to establish that relationship and have you think about us as a partner in meeting in community solutions. So shared services has been part of our mission from the beginning of Lakes Country. We do try to leverage our relationships statewide, so we work with the other service cooperatives all over the state. We have some national partnerships that we try to bring to the table, but almost all of our services are really built locally. So we take all that input from our membership to build our services. And we try to make them so that they are tailored to or fit our region. So I'm going to guess that probably one of the #1 programs you're familiar with is the insurance program, the health insurance program that the city participates in. And you're familiar with the work that we've done to pull together city and county pools over the years to try to even out the highs and lows in insurance costs. In the last few years, we've worked very diligently to try to help our members navigate the ACA rules. And we've built a number of wellness programs. Something that maybe you didn't know was that the 9 employees in that division, that business division, also do a host of other business services. So we're doing payroll services for other organizations. We're doing grants management services, doing fiscal hosting services, and in some cases, we're the business manager in some of our school districts when they've asked us to or are assisting. We've also added some human resource tools to the business services office. So we're now, we have a subscription service that's available to all our members called HR 360. And we've started a networking group that meets quarterly for human resources professional development. Another service that has been around for quite a while, that's maybe not so widely known, one of those quiet services, is our health and safety consulting. And that came about originally many years ago. Few of our membership could afford someone to help them with the OSHA rules or the NPCA rules. So that was just a perfect regional service that we could provide. We currently have 3 full-time health and safety consultants. And they're providing services to 33 school districts, 5 cities, a county, and the 4 campuses of in-state, and growing. So they're out there helping our members navigate the OSHA regulations and training, doing hazard identification, plan writing. We do some a la carte services for asbestos and lead testing. We run a random drug and alcohol program, and in the last few years, we added a part-time building official for our smaller communities that had that need but couldn't afford a full-time building official. You're probably knowledgeable as well about our Ed Services Department, which you associate with academic challenges, Knowledge Bowl. We do the spelling bee statewide. We do a tremendous amount of professional development. But again, another little known area that we've grown into is community services. So we do a tremendous amount with workforce development and work in partnership with a number of partners in the region to try to develop, use our educational connections and develop the workforce in the region, or at least continue the conversation on how we build the workforce in the region. We also, as an example of having a member come to us and with a need, we were asked to, and we worked with Otter Tail County to take over the coordination for the collaborative. And we are participants in the other county collaboratives as well. We work with public service, or not public service, but public health to do early childhood screening throughout the schools throughout the county. So again, just examples of those partnerships where there were needs and we could fulfill that role. On the operational side, our growing services include technology. So 5 years ago, we had 2 technology employees. Today, we have 14 technology employees. So obviously, a huge need among our membership for technology services. We're certainly not here to replace any employees or take over any services. We're here to make our members stronger in whatever they need. And so in some cases, we have been asked to be the technology coordinator in the organization, but in most cases, we are there working hand in hand with the technology coordinator. So we're providing network development services, network administration, help desk services, remote help services, installation and repair. There's just a tremendous need for as technology explodes in every organization. Another service that we are very proud of and has grown tremendously over the last few years is our cooperative purchasing. And that is actually something that came out of the Lakes Country Service Cooperative and is now a tri-state program. So we pulled together the volume, the purchasing power from all of our public agencies, and we've gone out to bid and done the competitive process for a number of contracts, over 50 contracts that are there available, that are either have discounts or value added or a combination of discounts and value added. And our members know that because it's in our legislation, if we do a bid, it's as if you've done the bid. So cooperative purchasing has become very popular across the nation. There are times when you want to do your own bid, but there are times when a cooperative purchasing bid fits the bill. It's part of your purchasing portfolio. One of our innovative programs that grew out of that was we used, again, all of those partnerships throughout the tri-state area to build a technology service, an online marketplace, much like Amazon, but built specifically for public purchasing. So a few others have done this. So you can go online, you can sign up, you can shop across bid contracts that meet the Minnesota bid laws, and you can place your purchase, and you can have, it mimics the way you do your public purchasing. So multiple levels of approval, you can send it across the chain, you can pay with a P card, you can pay with a purchase order. It is built for public procurement. And finally, we have just a host of professional development opportunities. We had over 2,500 people come through our doors through workshops or networking opportunities just in the past year. And that's something that we would love to hear from our members, because we're always trying to add, what do you need in terms of networking opportunities or training or workshop development? Do you need it online? What can we do to help you save that money having to send people down to, you don't have to send people down to the cities. You can do it here. We're also doing grant searching. We're doing meeting facilitation. And the last thing I would like to know is that just a few years ago, we did a major remodeling on our building over on Mount Faith. It was a 1930s WPA project. We were in the old elementary school. Probably wouldn't recognize it today if you've been in our building. But that building, we feel, belongs to our members. So when we worked with the architect, we built in rooms that could host 2 people to 80 people. And those are free for all of our members to use. That's your building. So we will just thank you again for letting me talk about Lakes Country. I've been there 20 years, so I've worn a lot of different hats. But I'd like as many people as possible to know about the good work that the 100 people that work there do every day on behalf of our members. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jane. Lakes Country is certainly an impressive organization and a partner to 9 counties, cities, schools, counties, etc., and just an indispensable partner in today's modern world where we need all kinds of partnerships and help. Thank you. So,
Thank you.
are there any questions?
Any questions?
You didn't mention the food.
No, that's correct. A few years ago, we started the Fresh Connect Food Hub. And that came out of our work through our partnership with Partnership for Health, the 4-state SHIP grantee, or the 4-county SHIP grantee. We did a lot of public health work with them, and we saw the need to get fresh, locally grown, high-density food into our schools. And we started the Fresh Connect Food Hub. We've developed about a dozen growers in the region, and we got several grants. We have a truck, and we're actually picking up fresh foods in season and delivering them into both school district cafeterias and healthcare cafeterias. So we've moved over 100,000 pounds of food.
Again, very impressive. Thank you so very much. Jim?
Are you still working with school districts in North Dakota? Or have they
Yes.
done their own now, or how is that working?
We do. We
Okay.
have a joint powers partnership with the North Dakota Educator Service Cooperative. And that's a group of superintendents from around the state in North Dakota. And they meet about 4 times a year, and they direct our work. But they don't have an office and they don't have staff. So we actually are their cooperative purchasing for them, on behalf of them.
I was on the board before Hal, and I know we were working on that
Yeah.
at that time.
Yep. They've truly expanded and done a marvelous job in cooperative purchasing and all these other aspects. Anthony?
So normally on cooperatives, then you get like patronage and membership. How does the financial part of it work? Yes, there's a competitive bidding, but how do we know from a
How do we keep the doors open?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good
and
question.
do we get anything back? I mean, is it the more that you buy, the bigger your patronage?
You're talking about the members?
Yeah.
Okay. At this point, we don't do a patronage back. So we always negotiate the discount, the best discount that we could possibly negotiate through the competitive process. And we try to do value add. And then the vendors actually pay the cooperative a small administrative fee or marketing fee on the volume. And that's how we keep doing the bids and keep that program running. So every one of the programs at Lakes Country is a little bit different way of how it's funded. Quite a few grants. We write a lot of grants, and membership, and fee for service, and then vendor administrative fees.
Thank you.
Bill has a,
I was going to point out with that, our membership fee is only $250, so it's a very, inexpensive membership fee for the city of Fergus. So we appreciate that.
Thank you. We'll try to keep it that way.
Great.
the most impressive, I think, program that you're doing at the present time that affects virtually everybody is the insurance part of it. And it's also the biggest concern that everyone has. What direction do you see that taking at this point?
There have been many hours of discussion about that, and we feel very confident in our program. We feel that there's probably going to be a little bit more of in and out of the program for our memberships, for our membership. We've seen some members leave. Lately, we've seen more come back. So we feel like our administrative fees are some of the lowest in the state, and the service that we provide is next to none. So we're very confident that program is doing a lot of good for our membership, and that we will continue to have that.
It's an outstanding program, and I compliment Lakes Country Service Cooperative for being on top of it and doing such a fabulous job.
Another question?
Yes, Rod.
Yeah, just a little, I'm curious about the structure a little bit along the lines of what Anthony mentioned, but going beyond in terms of, as you were created for a K through 12 originally to provide services in that area, does your expansion, is it related to grant writing, or is it a legislative action? So like, you obviously have a budget that you work with.
Correct.
And so if you want to expand into some of these areas, like you're repairing iPads and offering other services that are kind of innovative, and some in the business sector, I suppose. But how do you expand that, into another area? How do you decide to do that?
That's where it's so important to have as much member input as possible. We can come up with lots of great ideas, but if our members don't have that need, or there's only a few who can support it, it's probably not going to move forward. So we're constantly having that conversation with our members of what is the need, and then we're honest with if there is a need and you want Lakes Country to go forward, how are we going to fund this that's fair for everyone? The Food Hub is actually funded through grants. We received multiple Department of Agriculture grants. Extension helped us quite extensively. We got a Bush Community Innovation Grant. And then technology, for example, is all fee for service. So there's a fee schedule, and if a member wants those services, they design the services together, and we provide them with a cost factor. So it's really program by program.
Okay.
And then all of our members, it's all voluntary. So they, no one has to use our services, which I think is actually very good for us, because it keeps us on our toes. We have to provide services that people want in order to keep going.
Thank you.
Any other? Thank you very much, Jane.
Thank you.
And please extend our appreciation to Lakes Country Service Cooperative for all that they do for not only our city, but certainly the region.
Well, thank you.
Thanks, Jim.
Thanks.
There's no open forum this evening. The next item will be the consent agenda. The following are non-controversial items intended to be approved with one motion without discussion. If a council member, staff, or a member of the public would like to discuss an item, please ask that it be removed and it be placed elsewhere on the agenda. Item 1, a resolution approving budget adjustments. Item 2, resolution approving the city contracting for actuarial studies for post-employment benefits with Hildy Incorporated. Item 3, resolution approving the city contracting for actuaries,
No, you're right. It's another one.
okay. For actuary studies with Hilding Incorporated for the Fergus Falls Fire Relief Association. Item 4, a resolution authorizing the city administrator to sign the interlocal contract for cooperative purchasing with Houston Galveston Area Council, H-GAC. Item 5, a resolution authorizing the fire chief to purchase 30 self-contained breathing apparatus equipment through the H-GAC with funding to come from a federal grant and department budget. Item 6, resolution approving the city entering into a joint powers agreement with the West Central Minnesota Drugs and Violent Crimes Task Force and authorizing the required signatures for the agreement. Item 7, a resolution approving the city entering into a joint powers agreement for the police department and city attorney's office to be authorized users of the Minnesota Criminal Justice Data Network. And item 8, a resolution authorizing the city attorney to act as a designated and authorized representative for the city attorney's office and to sign the master subscriber agreement for the Minnesota Court Data Services for governmental agencies. Item 9, resolution approving the Economic Development Services Agreement between the City of Fergus Falls and the Economic Improvement Commission. Item 10, a resolution authorizing staff to start the acquisition process for the properties located at 502 South Sherman Avenue and for the 315 East Vasa Avenue to abate the property through demolition with the plans to sell vacant lot to recover the costs. Item 11, resolution setting the final cost hearing for D'Amica Drive and Martin Street for December 5th, 2016. Item 12, a motion approving the minutes from the October 17th, 2016 City Council meeting. And item 13, motion approving licenses, and you have a very detailed list of those in your packet. And I'll entertain a resolution to approve.
I'll offer that, Your Honor.
Jim, thank you.
I'll second it.
Scott, second. Any questions or comments? Roll call, please.
Patrick.
Yes.
Shire.
Yes.
Rachel.
Yes.
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes.
Hurley.
Yes.
Vito.
Yes.
Hicks.
Yes.
The consent agenda is approved. This evening, presentation of claims in the amount of $1,791,407.66. Please address any questions or comments to Bill Sonmore. Otherwise, I'll entertain a resolution to approve.
I'll offer that, Your Honor.
Darren, thank you.
I'll second, Your Honor.
Wayne, thank you for the second. Roll call, please.
Patrick.
Yes.
Shire.
Yes.
Rachel.
Yes.
Fish.
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes.
Hurley.
Yes.
Vito.
Yes.
Hicks.
Yes.
The resolution is approved. Item K, Board, Committee, and Departmental Reports. This evening, we will need a resolution approving a preliminary plat of the third addition to Pebble Hills Estate as requested by Craig Vaughn. And I'll call on Gordon or April. All right.
I don't have a map of this. I believe it was presented at the last council meeting, and this is just an approval of a preliminary plat out in Pebble Shores Edition, over this golf course. And they're just sectioning off lots for construction.
Are there any
Again, this is a
questions
preliminary.
or concerns? Someone offer the resolution.
I'll do that.
Anthony, thank you. Second?
I'll second, Your Honor.
Jim? Second? Roll call, please.
Patrick.
Yes.
Shire.
Yes.
Rachel.
Yes.
Fish.
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes.
Hurley.
Yes.
Vito.
Yes.
Hicks.
Yes.
The resolution is approved. There are no reports from staff or administrative officers. Item M, old business. Andrew Bremseth will give us an update on the RTC state grant.
Yeah, thank you, Your Honor, members of the council. Last time we discussed the RTC, we were waiting on a response from our lobbyist, Joel Carlson, in regards to what our options are with the state grant that's expiring at the end of the year. And in your packet, there were 2 emails that I had received last week from Joel that addressed that. And I'll quickly read them for the sake of our audience and those following along. But These emails, like I said, are from Joel Carlson. The first one reads, "I've worked to suggest the Department of Administration and Minnesota Management of Budget reconsider their interpretation of the grant statute to allow for a cancellation of the bonds, which is a long process, giving us time next session, as opposed to saying the funds must be expended by December 31st of 2016. I can report that after several attempts and receiving positive support for the city's redevelopment decisions, Minnesota Management and Budget feels the specific language indicating notwithstanding Minnesota Statute 16A.642 mandates that the funds be used. We have attempted to provide alternatives to that interpretation, including that the notwithstanding language refers to the 4-year window to use grant funds, but they have not been accepted. While an alternative interpretation may be an acceptable answer to those wanting to assist the city, the state's bond lawyers are not convinced, and the legal advice is controlling at this point. After this latest round of polite pushing, I believe the advice to not rush into projects at the close of the year to simply spend down the funds is sound. Taking the fiscal high road is viewed positively by the Department of Administration and Minnesota Management and Budget, and is no lack of support for allowing the city to proceed with the funds that remain once reauthorized in 2017. We have been clear with these officials that additional funding is going to be needed, and the lack of a bonding bill has placed us at a disadvantage that we'll have to work around in 2017. Subsequent email, Joel indicated that the Department of Administration is clear that encumbered does not work in this instance, specifically because of the notwithstanding provision of the current grant language. And he goes on to say, we will be in a better position by not spending down funds without proper planning or rushed bids. We are making the best of an unfortunate situation that the city did not create. So, more or less, the work that Mr. Carlson did resulted in kind of what we figured it would, being that we have no choice but to wait until 2017 to move forward on our planned projects. With that being said, Brian Navarro, our city engineer, has begun preparing a list of projects, which I'm going to have him talk about here quickly, but the premise would be to establish this full and comprehensive list of projects that we need to get done or agreed to get done at the RTC and move forward in 2017 with getting the grant money reauthorized to the city and hopefully some additional funds beyond those that were currently authorized that will be ending on December 31st of 2016. So,
Can I ask a question? Yeah, Andrew, so would you say that sounds a little bit like Mr. Carlson is backpedaling from what he said earlier to the council? You don't want to have to use that word.
I don't want to speak for Mr. Carlson, but more or less I think that the avenues that he originally gave to us have ended in dead ends. And
He was overly optimistic, maybe?
that may be a fair assumption, yes.
Okay,
Yep.
thanks.
Yes, thank you, Andrew. This handout you have in front of you is in regards to this overall either 2017 RTC campus project, and I don't want to say just 2017. Based on, we could look to do some of these projects in 2018. But the main thing, I had given you a list of asset preservation projects Stantec is currently working on, and we're pretty much at substantial completion to begin uploading the plans. We've been operating on the premise that if the council wanted to award a project, we'd have to do a 21-day minimum competitive bidding and look to award in December. But we can talk about this more, but I just want to begin with the asset preservation. We have I have an itemized what we're looking at, the work scope for each individual building. As discussed, previous council, they requested a base bid package with alternates. The base bid, for the base bid, it'll generally include addressing the building envelope. This could either be the roof repair or replacements. We're looking at doing window repair, replacements, ceiling, and we're also looking at doing some work for the exterior masonry. The next item, common thread you'll see is addressing the humidity control as well. And the third thing you'll see as a standing theme between all these is monitoring of the systems and everything, whatever we do to preserve the buildings. So for the base bid, currently as it is right now, we're looking for building 1, building 3, building 22, 24, 25, 26, and 28. That would consist of the base bid for asset preservation. We also would include 4 alternates, which would be alternate number 1 would be the same, addressing the building envelope for building 23, building 29, building 32, and 27. We're looking to maybe accomplish this work all in one contract, as I indicated with alternates. Another contract we're evaluating right now is a mold abatement package for various buildings. I don't have the particular buildings to the extent of the mold abatement at this time, but that's one package we're looking at for 2017. The next projects the council also requested to look at was Public Improvement 9692. That would be the select demolition packages. We have 4 identified in that update you have in front of you. That's one package we're looking as a contract is building number 2 and 3 gazebos. And the city's also received SHPO approval on that. Next building would be building 30. We still have some SHPO approvals and other abatement things we have to work through. Next one would be building 11, and the city has received SHPO approval. And lastly would be the tunnels. That's pending SHPO approval once again. So at this time, like I said, what I'm requesting is if with council's decision, if we believe the funds will be renewed next year, we could table this project for the meantime and look to critique and go through each of these items I've talked about in greater specificity and look to begin advertising perhaps in March or April. Or if the intent of the council is to have an awarded contract by the end of December 31st, I need authorization to advertise at this time.
Anthony?
I think in light of obviously Joel Carlson's obviously retrack, I obviously at that meeting, I cast doubt about the ability to get it done. I think the contract was written in such a way that I would not be prepared to encumber the city on any work beyond what is presently being done. And I would say that it would be unfair to the contractors to go out and get bids until we get clarity from the state. I think we have to get clarity from, the Department of Administration, and we need the grant reinstated before we go bidding anything. Because if we bid something, and then time expires and we've got to rebid it, and I think that looks bad on us. So I don't think we can do any more until we get a plan with the state in place. And I think we're wasting people's time and money by doing it.
Ron?
I've spoken a little bit. I just want Andrew can bring us up to speed on some options. I had suggested a few things that we might do in contacting, someone at the state, because it's really been they got us into this in a way. And I think so do you have any more updates on that, or?
Well, we've been in contact, obviously, like I mentioned, with Joel Carlson, who's been working with the governor's office and members of the legislature. I've also been in contact with our local representatives. That could change as of tomorrow with the election, but giving them, if they are still in office, the heads up that we will be coming with this based on tonight's meeting. You had suggested at one point possibly an attorney general's opinion. And we explored that avenue, and just there wasn't time to get that prior to getting this decision made here tonight or in the upcoming meetings. The process for that is for a request for an opinion to come from the city attorney. In this case, Rolf really hasn't worked all that closely with this project, so that would have to be referred to Kent Mattson for preparation. And we've done to the extent that we can. I know Brian and Dan have both had several contacts with the Department of Administration, and really, quite honestly, the reception, everybody's been hesitant to give us any clear or concrete answers with this thing, and that's really been the most frustrating part of the last 4 months since we learned the bonding bill wasn't going to pass. Everybody's kind of been pointing fingers, and you know, it's not until now, and this really isn't all that concrete of an answer from Joel. It's just he's been experiencing the same thing. Nobody willing to give that clarity, and willing to stick their necks out there and say that this is going to be okay. So just out of doing things in a conservative manner, we feel it's best to go forward in 2017. And the reception that we're getting from not only the departments within the state government, but also the legislators that we have talked to, is that they're going to be willing to support this going forward. It's not that there's a lack of support, and it was certainly included in that final version of the bonding bill that wasn't agreed to by both bodies, but the support's there to get this done in 2017, and so it just makes most sense to wait and let them correct their mistakes from the last session.
Other questions?
Your Honor, I just want to ask a clarifying question, probably of Andrew, I'm guessing, or maybe Brian, but when we talk about potentially asking for more money, that then would be based on the list of projects that we're going to pursue, correct, for asset preservation?
Yeah.
Not we're not going to go above and beyond that amount. Is that correct?
Well, that would be a decision the council has to make.
Okay.
Our plan would be to, hold a work session here in the coming days to solidify what the desire of the council is, so we can formulate that plan, and with that would be engineer estimates for those projects, which we would definitely have to ask for within the new grant, but if the council was looking for additional funding, that would be a component of it as well. But at this time, as staff, we're looking at the projects before us and coming up with those estimates.
Okay, thank you.
Is the electrical infrastructure being addressed in this?
In some manner, but for redevelopment for any potential tenants. We've had meetings with Otter Tail Power, and what that would consist of installing new power to the campus as it develops and everything. I don't have those costs in front of me, but I don't believe it was, majority of that cost is borne by Otter Tail Power for each wing house developed.
Okay. How about bringing the power where it is right now? Is that going to stay regardless of what our other projects are?
Yes, however, with the tunnel, and that's one of the obstacles, and I don't want, with the tunnel demolition, because
With SHPO, and getting the timeline approval, are you seeing the results you want to see?
to be quite honest, yes, however, to expedite the whole process where we're at right now, we did sign an authorization letter from the city to SHPO, authorizing Stantec and McDonald Mack as our representatives to help expedite the process, the interaction. So that has been, we have a few things to work out, but that's been handled through Stantec and McDonald Mack.
Brian, can you speak a little bit about SHPO's ability to review and comment throughout construction, and also being a barrier to getting anything done yet this year?
Well, that's part of the things with the standard SHPO, I believe 30, 60, and 90-day review when you do it. We've been doing that simultaneously, so Stantec has been proceeding to the next step in design while not receiving the comments back from SHPO, and that's created a few obstacles, but nothing we haven't been able to accomplish yet. But we haven't quite addressed anything that we're talking about right here in great magnitude at this time. So by having the ability to maybe look through the winter here to refine, get to SHPO approvals. And we also talked about the project, the quote we received recently, that, the favorable bid environment that we're looking to have, and we think we could get better prices in 2017. And that was one of the things we discussed as well. But getting SHPO approvals, the better clarity you can add into a specifications and everything, it reflects in your price. It's a variable anyways.
Thanks.
Other questions, Brian? Or Andrew?
And I would just like to note the plans that Stantec has right now, we probably have anywhere from 80 to 90% working documents right now. We're working on the specifications and everything, but we have the plans and specs too as well. for better clarity of conveying information to the state. So that's one benefit we have right now, where we're at in project development right now.
Brian, has anything been done yet? What work has actually been accomplished so far on the building?
The work that has been accomplished recently, and that'll be the next item to add on, but Building Restoration Services has been working on building the Kirkbride building. I believe they're getting close to substantial completion. They're doing the exterior masonry repairs. G&B Construction, I might as well just put this on if you don't mind. This is for
Sure,
the next
please.
one, but just to give you a
Go right
case
ahead.
map as well. G&B Construction, that was awarded by the council, that are proposed to have this work done by December 1st, is for building 1, 22, and 26. The contractor has mobilized to the site, but he hasn't brought his crews. However, he's procured the material and it's been delivered there to start this work on buildings 1 and 22 and 26. Last information update I got was they're going to be sending 3 crews in to start this work already awarded by the council. The utility project with the sanitary sewer and water main, that project we're at we have a few things left. The water main's been completed. We got a few bituminous patching repairs to do from the open cut. The remaining item in general for works item is the care in place pipe liner for the sanitary sewer. A little bit of scheduling there, but the contractors indicated their subcontractor will be in hopefully by the end of the week here to start that process. But the utility for the redevelopment of the project is looking on schedule for November 18th as proposed. So that's what's currently going on right now for work.
The mold abatement and the,
I think we have humidifiers. There's others that
dehumidifiers?
could probably speak more to that, but we have humidifiers going on right now. I know, talking with Lennon, that the downspout connections, the majority of those have been extended and completed as requested. That work has been completed. And some of these, to an extent, these projects I just indicated here for 2017, there will be some additional gutter repair work like that that will be proposed to be done as well.
how about the brickwork?
Brickwork, building restoration, as indicated, they're close to substantial completion with the Kirkbride that was awarded. That central core area, some of that work, we did increase some of the quantity based on the favorable bid prices and the indication from the contractor that they can get the work done in a timely manner. So we had, I believe, and I added approximately up to 25% more work on that, but I can follow up with what the exact quantities are right now.
And these things will all be completed and billed in a timely way that we get
That is
reimbursed.
the overall intent. We have to, I think on the next council meeting, or the first one's at December 5th, we'll be looking to pass a resolution finalizing these projects I just talked about, so we can submit for reimbursement from the state.
Excellent, thank you for
Your
that.
Honor, could I get one more question? Just access to building 1, we'd worked on some dehumidification and some other things and been closing off the downstairs. And so I don't know, we've had an encapsulation of where we're at on that recently, have we? The main building, you know.
Yeah,
I'm not sure what your question is.
Well, when we started the process, we believed we could do we could speed up the timeline by tearing out some of the wet stuff in the bottom, closing off the tunnels and making sure that we could get in there somehow. I just wanted to get an update on, I really haven't heard an update on that. Where are we at with that?
Well, that was done solely in the basement of the main tower, because that's the only area that can be closed off.
Right.
And so that has been, and I'm not even sure if it was in the bills tonight, or if it's maybe gonna be at the next council, but we did get billed, I wanna say $7,000 for the debris removal from the basement. And the humidifiers have been running all summer, basically. So that's pretty much the extent of what was done in the main tower area.
So have we significantly reduced the humidity enough to make it so that it's actually, or is,
I would,
do we need more ventilation in there so we can?
I think, well, part of the problem is I don't think you can go beyond that basement area until you get those tunnels ripped out, because you're just, it's like a underground river, just bringing moisture into the building. So until SHPO gives us the approval to demolish those other tunnels, I don't think it's worthwhile to explore dehumidification or ventilation in any other part of the building. And I think that's going to take like a mechanical contractor to come in there versus what we've been able to accomplish just in the basement of Building 1. So.
Okay.
Yeah, if I can add to what Kyle was saying too as well. If you recall, when we awarded these roofing packages, one of the projects was to address the overall humidity control system as well. But speaking with Stantec about that, some of the lead times required to retrofit the existing ventilation system to either do an active or passive system, there was a lot of lead time, up to 8 weeks minimum, to procure all that equipment. At that time, trying to submit payment early December for payment by December 31st, it just didn't seem feasible at that time. So we looked at doing these humidity controls and other systems.
I'll just add one other point to that too. When you look at the Legend report, they don't recommend using the existing ventilation in the building. And two, there isn't a lot of ventilation in the building. The building was predominantly steam heat, so you have a lot of pipe. You don't have a lot. I mean, there is some throughout the building, but it is, it's not like you have an existing system of ductwork running through the building that you can just, hook on, new compressors and air handlers and that kind of thing. You're going to be building something basically from scratch to really do what you need to do. The other thing I would point out too is that the dehumidifiers, it did definitely bring the humidity level down, but as far as reducing the amount of mold, I don't think it was there. I think what you saw was that we were able to maintain or not spread the growth of mold. So I would just keep that in mind too, that it's not a total fix to the issue. I'm not saying it's not doing its job, but it's not the total fix that I think some of us hope that it might be.
And I guess we've heard from, we've heard from the engineers and the preservationists that the humidity is the major problem. And we're going into another winter. We have a lot of humidity, a lot of moisture in the soil yet. My concern is that while SHPO is trying to preserve the building, if we hold up the tunnel demolition and we don't get that done or can't seal it or do whatever we're supposed to be doing, we're actually contributing to its demise, and SHPO is helping contribute to that demise by not dealing with the tunnels, which are the main contributing source apparently of this humidity. I've heard that from more than one person. And so I'm quite frustrated with that, and I think we should note that to SHPO that, this should be a larger picture view instead of, you're trying to save a few trees and you lose the forest. But anyhow.
As we are going to move forward then, is that at this juncture to just establish with Stantec and all of the other agencies that we have to deal with, including Joel, to bring us together then at another appointed time to move forward to 2017.
Your Honor, yeah, I'm looking at the city engineer to determine when he's at a point that he's ready to have a work session to get everybody on the same page, and we're going to work in that direction. We're not looking for any action tonight unless you want us to do something other than work towards 2017. So Brian's really got it really in the driver's seat on this at this point in time, and he's doing a good job with it.
Is that an acceptable process with everyone?
Yes, sir.
Yep. Good.
Your Honor, just reiterate that the humidity thing is going to be there this winter. We're going to have it again this spring, and by not having ventilation, proper ventilation, we're going to have more mold again. I believe. I'm just very concerned about that, and I don't know why we can't try to put that on a higher priority, but
Let's express that to Stantec then.
Yeah.
I think it's
so,
SHPO.
And to SHPO.
It's SHPO that's the issue, not Stantec.
Could I, not being an engineer, but is there a way to temporarily seal the tunnels off
I think we
for the
could-
winter?
I think we could look to do some temporary provisions.
I mean, just to keep it from, to Rod's point. So I agree, I mean, we need to make sure that we're addressing that.
The one thing I would just say is that a lot of the moisture, it's, you have materials that are wicking moisture in. It's not, that you can just put up a, piece of plastic at a door and completely keep the moisture out. I mean, those are some of the challenges. Most of the doors leading to the tunnels, especially the one that has the most water in it, the door is closed. But like I said, you have materials that are wicking moisture into the building. It's a lot easier said than done, I guess.
it's worse than WikiLeaks.
Yeah.
Is that enough for you to move forward, Brian?
Certainly, yes.
All right, good. Thank you very much. Excellent report. And now then, we'll ask you for just a quick update on 2016 summer projects progress.
Sure.
You wanted, there was, the other thing on RTC?
That's coming under new business.
Right.
Yes, just wanted to give you a little recap, and I'm not gonna go into great detail as far as finances and everything. I just wanted to provide you an update where we're at with some of these projects. And I have 10 projects I just wanted to go through quick that you've been aware of and everything. And feel free to ask me any questions you may have with these projects as I go through them. The first project is a 2016 county resurfacing project. That was a local option sales tax that was a collaborative effort with the county and the city. As you recall, the city, we had some street segments into that overall county project. But to date, as you can see, the project is substantially completed. We're working with the contractor on addressing some punch list items and everything with this project, but overall, it's reached substantial completion. The next project was along some of the same corridors, Public Improvement 5951, Cascade Street reconstruction from Washington and Vernon. Substantial completion has been met. Currently, the contractor is working on backfilling behind the curb, restoration items. I just want to note the final wearing and striping is proposed to be completed spring 2017. And if I can lead on to as well, that was what we talked about, the bike lanes that the council actually proposed. We'll be looking to hopefully incorporate that into the final completion of Cascade Street reconstruction project.
Brian, could I ask a question on that?
Yes.
There's been a lot of talk about the manholes, both in the current political debate and in council. We've been addressed a couple times about the manholes and how terrible our manholes are, and apparently causing damage to vehicles and things like that. Can you just address that in terms of specifications on manholes? And I drive in a lot of cities and whatever, and I see manholes at different levels, and I'm just wondering, what's the real, give us the real deal on this. Do we have bad manholes all over Fergus?
Well, the real deal has to do with a lot of your underlying soils and everything in the time of year if the underlying soils are swelling, contracting. However, with manholes and everything, in these county projects, and the meeting I had actually this morning with the contractor county, one of the items was to address the manholes and work thus far done on the manholes by the contractor. We do have in the specifications a certain level of tolerance for the manhole castings and the valve boxes. That tolerance is generally around 1/4 inch to 1/2 inch. It depends. But I want to please note though, it's between the paving of the existing conditions and everything, that tolerance is sometimes difficult to meet. These projects are not new construction. They're utilizing existing curb and gutter, tie-in points we call it and everything as well. So there's a lot of things that make it difficult and everything. So we're working with the contractor using very good judgment and everything to address some of these manholes that we have associated with this project.
I noticed a lot of X's coming in on Elcott tonight. Someone was out there marking the manholes with X's. What's that about?
That manhole may be, I'm not entirely sure, but I'm sure it might be marking location of the manhole that needs to be addressed.
Okay, all right.
I'm not entirely sure.
And then I just had one other question about biking in general. Since we are a bike-friendly city and talked about this, we put a lot of effort into Cascade. However, there's a lot of biking on Alcott Avenue. And even though we're going to be doing a little cutoff there, there's a lot of people that bike there and Sharrows. And I noticed in other cities too that pedestrians seem to be safer when there's a sign on the pavement or something and signs alerting that there's shared lanes here. You know, that people drive more carefully. I'm just wondering about the larger question of that in terms of working with the biking committee. If you might recommend that we look at this as a larger picture in some of the higher trafficked arterial areas in Fergus. And I realize, is that still a county controlled until Elcott's going to be back to the city though in the switch, right? After.
At the present moment, yes, it is a county project. We talked about that's one of the roads that will be swapping with the county, so it will be placed under our jurisdiction. I think with the downtown riverfront master plan, and I know Andrew, you can speak up too, but part of it was that for the trails too as well, and bike and pedestrian facilities. We're looking at the trail systems and everything, but I actually sit on the bike and pedestrian committee as well, and we're looking for, as soon as some of these plans are, to have a master plan citywide for bike and pedestrian facilities, and I'm assuming Alcott will be one of the main corridors that would be looked to review to be incorporated in this whole master plan.
Well, I'd encourage that because I don't think we should be controlled by activism in terms of certain areas of Fergus. We should be controlled by a larger picture of what's safe in general for pedestrians and bikers across the city.
Well, I'd like to know with the River Oaks Landing too as well, there is that trail off of Western and everything, which is pretty significant for that connection between Tower Road and Alcott as well. We looked at the speed study for Alcott. I am waiting for the results back on that as well, but this provides, with this connection here, this provides us a west-east connection through that part of town and everything, and it's more on local streets too as well. As we all know in Alcott and everything, there's some significant insult problems on that road that would take a lot to review other than, you know, for off-street facilities. So yes, we will look at that. It's been discussed previously, and we'll continue to look at that area.
Thanks.
Next project.
Moving on, we talked about the RTC utility projects. We have the utility, where we're at, the asset preservation, and some select demolition. The next project, where we're at, Public Improvement 5296, the Minnesota Avenue project. Just last week, the bituminous pavement was installed. The contractor is currently backfilling, placing topsoil, and we're looking to seed and restoration. With this project, just like the Cascade reconstruction, is proposed to put the final wearing course on next year as well. Next project, Public Improvement 5952, the 2016 City Mill and Overlay projects. That was a combination of the community ice arena parking lot and various streets throughout the city. We have reached substantial completion. I believe the punch list is completed, and we're working on the final closeout documentation from the contractor. The Woodland Heights Water Main Project, Public Improvement 8199. To date, all trenchless water main installation has been completed by the contractor. The contractor is currently installing the water main via open cut on the west side of the project. They may move, depending on the weather and everything, to the east side of the project across the Otter Tail Power easement, you know, making that easterly connection for the project. That's a day by day. We do have it in the contract to have final completion spring of 2017, so it's availability for the contractor. We gave him that option how he wants to complete this project.
Your Honor, could I just want to make a point there with that project. And I know we talked about this previously at council, but since the action that we took with regard to Woodland Heights, I want to make sure that folks know that is not a water and sewer project for the residents. It's a connector that completes a loop in our system. And so I just want to make sure that folks are aware that if they see work going out there, that's not what that project is.
The Woodland Heights project, when it was incepted, I believe back in 2012, we had a lot of easement, we had to acquire a lot of easements to make this path, and part of it was to occupy that township road. We also had to work with Otter Tail Power and some other private owners. That was the main thing, was getting these easements. We just recently acquired those to proceed with the project. And the project is to the Cleveland water tower that we see there. That's to increase the water distribution system over to the Stony Brook area and that. But we had the feasibility report indicated that current alignment was the best choice for the city, and the township gave us an agreement to occupy. So yes, it is for expansion of the city's distribution and pressure.
Thanks.
Okay, thank you.
We also have, keeping moving forward with, we have completed a few projects at the airport. We have completed the T-hanger pavement rehabilitation project. We're working on the final closeout with that project. We did a taxi lane extension project. We're looking to install the bituminous, the dirt work, site work has been completed. We're looking to do the bituminous paving next spring. And we're also still in the process of acquiring a new SRA. So those are some of the projects, unless there's others the council would request an update on. I'm happy to
Thank you
answer.
very much, Brian. We're very pleased that you can multitask to that extent.
Thank you.
It's been a busy summer. Well, let's just keep you up there because the next item will be quotes for RTC roof repairs.
Yes, I'll make this one. This was from, as indicated on the map, the council, we awarded complete roofing packages for building 1, 22, and 26. From those meetings, and we had a special council meeting, the council requested Stantec and the contractor, once they're mobilized on site, to look at some other additional isolated roof patch areas. That was for building 27, building 3, and building 25. There's a little narrative, but they're looking to do a few patch segments for some buildings and to repair some flashing. So at this time, I'm just requesting you review those. We'll start with a resolution for building 3. That was to clean some of the roof scuppers, inspect and reseal any necessary repairs for an area identified. Looking for a recommendation to award to G&V Construction the amount of $1,250 for that work.
Do we need to take?
Your Honor, I'd just like to note too, all of these items that Brian's looking at would be completed by December 1st, so we would have the time to get the reimbursement.
Yes, and I'd like to add to that as well. And if we feel the contractor, based on weather, cannot get them done, we'll look, if not awarded, we'll make sure they're incorporated into this 2017 overall project as well.
Summer offer that resolution?
I'll offer.
Jim, second?
I'll second.
Wayne? Roll call, please.
Are you doing these all at once?
I think we're doing them individually.
Correct.
Effort?
Yes.
Schreier?
Yes.
Waitrose?
Yes.
Fish?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Early?
Yes.
Speedo?
Yes.
Hicks?
Yes.
The resolution is approved. Thank you.
The next resolution is to approve bid for building 25. This work consists of removing some of the existing built-up roofing and install new EDM patch system for 2 isolated areas identified. Recommending award to G&V Construction in the amount of $10,260 to complete this work.
Any questions? Summer offer that resolution? Darren? Darren, second?
Second, Your Honor.
Ben? Roll call, please.
Effort?
Yes.
Schreier?
Yes.
Waitrose?
Yes.
Fish?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Early?
Yes.
Speedo?
Yes.
Hicks?
Yes.
Resolution is approved. Item 3.
Looking for a resolution to approve bid for building 27. This work consists of repairing some parapet flashing adjacent to ballasted roof system. Recommending award to G&V Construction in the amount of $8,680 to complete this work.
Someone offer that?
I got a question.
Anthony?
I mean, for me, obviously, that building 27 is in tough shape, but I mean, are we really going to get bang for our buck to put $10,000 into it? I mean, for me, I'm not going to vote to do this because I don't think that building, you know, the last estimate was like $500,000 to just preserve that. So I think $10,000 is just going to go nowhere. It's like pouring it down a black hole. So I don't know. For me, it just doesn't seem worth it.
but it is shutting down another source of moisture.
Yeah, but it's so far away from the core, and, you know, the last bid was $500,000, so I don't know, for me, obviously people can vote as they wish, but.
Ron?
Your Honor, it seemed like it'd be money better spent by just opening some windows, if that cost $10,000. I mean, I hate to sound like dripping water, but this humidity issue has been on the burner back and forth for probably 6 to 8 months, and we've asked, requested that Stantec work on it, we've requested that it be dealt with, and we still are going into a winter, and we don't have adequate, we've just heard again, don't have adequate ventilation. And I'm not blaming anyone's staff, I'm just saying overall, someone's not listening to the dripping of water inside that building, and we should be very concerned about that. We all should be very concerned going into a springtime without having adequate ventilation, because we had a big problem last year. And it's just mainly getting windows open, I mean, you had low humidity in the wintertime, it would be drying stuff out. But I'm obviously frustrated with that, you know, that we're spending money on 27 and we don't have adequate ventilation in the rest of the building.
We actually have a lot of windows and doors open. The enclosed porch areas that are up there, we've got those open to the corridors, and a lot of the doors, or the windows, they're like 8 by 14 windows,
right.
so there's not a whole lot of air moving through there, but we do have what can be opened, a lot of it is open.
So as opposed to last year, there's more ventilation then?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
It's, passive like was described. But.
Yeah, okay.
Your Honor.
Wayne?
I guess, you know, my thoughts with that one, we haven't made a determination at this point that anything is going to be demolished. And so I mean, this is a small amount, and I think that if it's going to help preserve that building, and, you know, we'll make a determination at some point down the road, you know, what's going to happen with that. But I'll offer a resolution to approve the bids for Building 27.
Someone have a second?
I'll second, Your Honor.
Thank you, Justin. Any other comments, questions? Roll call, please.
Effort.
Yes.
Shire.
Yes.
Rachel.
No.
Fish.
Yes.
Arneson.
Yes.
Early.
Yes.
Speedo.
No.
Hicks.
No.
Resolution is approved. Anything else that you need?
That's it, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. We'll call on April now to discuss 411 East Juniors.
I believe you shall have a packet in front of you regarding this property. Last week I was approached by Corey Sisselin, who is showing interest in this property, and I just kind of want to go over a little bit of the history of this property. This is a property located in the heart of I-2 zoning, which is industrial. I have been in contact with the Veterans Affairs Mortgaging Center regarding this property about a year ago, requesting that they demolish this property or indicate what their intentions are for this property. So this property has sat vacant for over a year, and then recently an offer was placed on this property. And Corey approached me asking if the city would allow this property to be rehabbed, brought into a dwelling again. And there's two takes on this. One is that in order for it to be rehabbed, we would want to see a complete plan of action that's going to be done from the foundation up. I'm going to show you some pictures that were taken this morning of the property too, so you can get a sense of what this property looks like. To the west of this property is an industrial building that's used for storage by OTP. To the east of it is a residential. And then on both the north and south side, the north side is the VFW, the south side are just some storage buildings. This upper level floor, this window has been missing for a full year, if not longer. Tuck pointing starting to let go on the chimney. The garage is in a dilapidated state. The front steps are deteriorating. There's questionable wiring throughout this whole structure that would need to be brought up to code by a licensed electrician. Water penetration has caused deterioration. I'm just gonna kind of go through these really quickly. This is in one room where a bathroom's above, so the drywall's starting to let go. The boiler pipes, all the heating pipes have exploded. There's a hole there throughout, periodically on both floors. It's blown apart. Again, water damage. Improper wiring, outlet or a light fixture used as a junction box. This is the boiler. It was installed 6 years ago, but has not been operational for over a year. Has also gone through a winter where it's frozen. Exposed wiring. Improper plumbing work. This is a foundation repair where they use grate stuff to spray in between the mortar joints. You can't see, this isn't depicted very well, but where the electrical box is coming in here, it's falling off of the foundation wall. Asbestos. Deterioration in the foundation areas. This right here is the rim joist and it's completely gone. Again, wiring. This is up on the second floor, water penetration. Again, the heating system has exploded in areas. That was just creative light bulbs, I thought, from the access to the attic. Some of the stairs are broken. There's tube and knob. And that's the window. Still deterioration. The garage. You can see that the foundation has shifted down here in areas. No window, it's been boarded up in the basement. So this is just a brief overview, and Corey had asked me just to come to the council because I had wrote a strong written letter to the VA asking that they demolish this property. The other stance I have as zoning administrator is this is a non-conforming use that has not been used for residents for over a year. So, you know, right now I would stick to my guns and say that this needs to be demolished and or it could be moved to another location, in a proper zoning location. But I just kind of wanted to give you a history on this, and Corey had asked me to bring this to the council as well, and that is what I've done here this evening.
Any comments? Anthony?
So who owns the property then? Obviously, the VA is the mortgage holder.
Currently, the VA, Veterans Affairs, still owns this property. There was an offer made on the 26th where the letter that was sent by the city was acknowledged by the purchaser, and I believe they will be closing on November 14th. So it's bought as is, whereas as is.
Right.
Scott?
This could be, I mean, if you, obviously he thinks he can repair it, and this could be repaired, you'll have to go through and have to inspect it through our ordinances.
You would have to go through the building permit process where, you know, in any project like this, I'd want to plan. You know, there's foundational issues, there's going to have to be upgrades to mechanical, electrical, plumbing. Those are all going to have to be done by a licensed plumber or electrician.
According to our ordinances.
According to the state building code.
Okay, whatever, yeah.
So, you know, it can be rehabbed. I'm not saying that it can't be rehabbed. My main concern is, you know, how do we feel about allowing a non-conformance after 1 year of non-use, which state statute allows us to say that we don't want to continue to allow residential in that zone. You know, what is our stance on that? So.
Not only state statute, but our local city code does allow and provide that upon non-use or non-occupancy, a structure that's a non-conforming use in a zoned area where it's not permitted. This may have been grandfathered in for one reason or another, but because of the fact that it has not been used or occupied for over a year, it loses its grandfather's status. And therefore, it's no longer allowed to continue to operate or be used for that purpose without first going through the planning commission and obtaining and successfully obtaining a variance to allow it to continue for that use. And in discussing this matter with Gordon, that application would not be supported by city staff, and Gordon could kind of fill in the blanks because of the fact that the I-2 district was formed in this area with the idea that some of these houses that were there would not always be there. And maybe Gordon can add a little bit to
Yeah,
that.
I can say that in late 70s, when I looked at this area, not working here, I saw that these were meant to eventually disappear and be replaced by industrial uses. So, and the fact that this is so central in the zone, it's not on an edge. And if we were considering, and say this were right on the edge of the central business district, we would think about possibly rezoning it central business district, but never housing, low-density housing, let alone multiple housing.
Your Honor.
Yes,
So,
Ben.
in fact, the staff is basically working with Mr. Stinsling to let him know that you're not going to support that variance in the future. Could we let the potential purchaser address the council if he'd like to? I mean, he wrote a letter. I mean,
Could I ask another question along with this?
Surely,
Is it-
when the council is through asking questions.
Is it a duplex now, or was it a duplex?
At one point in time, it was a duplex, yes.
But its last occupancy was a single home?
It was, to my understanding, yes.
Any other questions? Then, thank you, April, we'll call you back, but then we'll call Mr. Simpson.
Thank you guys, appreciate this. Couple things that I have. As far as the non-conforming use is concerned, if you look under the exceptions, there's several exceptions. One of them is residential non-conforming uses in any district existing at the effective date of this chapter shall not be subject to the amortization period set forth in this section. When referring to the amortization period, if you look at the definition of that, it says in the context of zoning regulations, amortization refers to the time period a non-conforming property has to conform to a new classification, zoning classification, before the non-conforming use becomes prohibitive. So it clearly states that if it's a residential facility, it's not subject to that same one-year period. So that's the first issue that I have as far as the non-conforming.
Can I address that just a second, sir?
Yeah.
I mean, I know what you're saying.
Okay.
You don't own the property yet, though. And you're hearing the position as to what the city is going to be as it relates to a non-conforming use. And I think this is a classic situation of caveat emptor, where the buyer should beware. You have an opportunity not to enter into this project at this point. You've put a purchase agreement in place, but it's not something that it's my understanding there's an out on this purchase agreement. So I think you just got to be a little careful with that interpretation, because I think the idea here is that, at least my opinion, and I think the zoning administrator, is that this would be a non-conforming use that loses its status because of its non-use, and that's the interpretation that we're taking on that ordinance, and it's also supported by state statute as well, on non-conforming uses and non-conforming when it comes to lack of use or occupancy for a year. So I just caution you from, assuming that in your situation, you don't own it right now. If it were me, I think I would ask the current owner to take that battle on for you, as opposed to expending funds or something like that and putting your neck out there to have that argument. But I'm just cautioning you in entering into this transaction because you need to enter into it with your eyes wide open, and you understand what the position of the city is going to be for a variance request, and we feel that it would require a variance request to allow that use.
interesting when it states this. But then the second thing, as far as the hazardous building, I know you guys have had quite a bit of discussion. I noticed in August, there was some discussion anyways, as far as the process for determining something that is hazardous and what you go through. And, you know, right now, my understanding is, a year ago, the city sent a letter to the VA asking to close it up because they felt somebody could have been going in and out of this property. And they followed that, they boarded everything up, the windows aren't broken or anything behind the boards. And they did that. I came around, they put it up for sale. I made an offer on the 25th, a verbal offer, and stated to the realtor that I noticed that there was water leaking out of the water meters. Hadn't been shut off at the curb stop. So I suggested that he contact the city and have them shut off, because it was flowing across the floor and into a drain. And when he got a hold of me the next day, he had said that the city had sent him a letter saying that they want it tore down. Now, my understanding of the process is they sent out saying, hey, we want this fixed up. And if that doesn't happen, then it's brought before the city council. City council decides whether or not they want it, what they want to do with it, whether they want to pursue that, and then they submit it to the courts if it's still not addressed. In this case, it was just posted that it's hazardous and everybody should stay out. Is that, how does that process happen?
If I may, Your Honor,
Please.
I'll answer that again.
Okay.
The process generally involves the building inspector making a determination as to whether, in her opinion, this is what is classified as a hazardous building, and the hazardous building is a building that's in such poor repair and dilapidated that nobody should live in it, and it's in such disrepair. The building inspector has made that determination that she feels this would qualify for a hazardous building. She contacts the property owner, says, you know what, your property is in such poor shape, you need to do the following, and I believe there's letters in the packet here that identify a lot of the things that, in her opinion, needs to be done to the building. You're right, the process does involve the city council making a determination that they want to engage the legal process for abatement, removal, raising, demolition of the hazardous building. They have that right to do. We haven't, and she hasn't made that request of the council yet. She's only contacted the property owner and said, look, your building is, in my opinion, a hazardous building, and made the recommendation that it would make more sense financially to consider tearing down the building than putting money into the renovations. But she hasn't made the request of this council to pass a resolution basically declaring that this property is a hazardous property and ordering in certain conditions to be met to bring this property into compliance, giving a relatively short time frame, and then either the person who owns the building brings it into compliance within that time frame, or they don't, and if they don't, that's where the legal matter gets filed with the court. And then the process there is, to either file an answer and have the judge make a final decision, or if they don't do anything further, then the judge would proceed on a default basis. We haven't got to that point yet on this property. We've only identified it as a hazardous building that could very well be a prime candidate for that type of action, but she hasn't gone to the council yet for that formal resolution.
Yeah.
Ron?
Can I ask a question? Well, of Mr. Sisler? You've done this before, probably you've done some buildings, and in your opinion, this building is savable if you're offering a purchase price, right? You're not going to tear it down, I assume?
Nope, plan to rehab it.
And so you believe that it has a value? The
Yes.
bones are still good enough to be
It does, yes.
torn out? And you've done some more of these before, or you've
I
done?
have.
So you're not, this isn't your first rodeo?
Nope, and I had my father walk through it with me.
Yeah.
And he agreed that the foundation and the roof, two of the main structures, were in good enough shape to take on the project.
Mm-hmm.
So I had some good advice also.
And your timeline that you would want to do this in is, you're not intending to keep it in this condition for a long
No,
time? then?
no.
I mean,
I was hoping actually to get Uxted Plumbing. I talked to them already about the possibility, and they said they could start on the plumbing soon as the end of November and get the heating going in place. My hope was to be able to get the first duplex rented out by the end of February. There's some issues with the windows on the second floor that needs to be replaced. That's gonna have to wait until next spring. So I'll probably wouldn't be able to get the second one done until probably somewhere in the end of the summer of next year.
May I ask you, is it possible to move it to an RA location?
I don't know enough about moving to know in its location what's in its way. I'm just not sure about that.
I just posed a question.
Yeah.
One to Gordon. Gordon, do we have a plan for that? Have you got something going into that area right now, at the moment, or?
No, it's
just zoned that way,
Yeah, it's been
right?
zoned since the 60s for industrial.
So if it could be fixed up, I mean, that's
Well,
still.
what it says is if
It's not.
if it's banned in use for more than a year, I'd have Rolf maybe read this amortization question. But the amortization question was if the zoning changes and you give them a year in which to make the thing conform, that's amortization. This is a non-conforming use abandoned for a year.
Yeah, I understand that. I'm just, I like to see things used, recycled if we can, if there's got a buyer and someone can do it, and we don't have plans, so we have plenty of industrial sites around the city. I mean, I just don't see why we don't give it a shot, let them try.
Again, there were more houses than the two there
Yeah.
when I moved to town, and some have been removed in the years since the zoning went into effect. Matter of fact, I believe there were two of them that were removed earlier. So this leaves this building and the other one next door.
Yeah, and that's just a question of zoning and the foresight, and, we got a lot of zoned areas for industrial, I'm saying, and we've got a lot of places that aren't used. But, I don't know, I don't see why we would not take someone up on trying to fix it up.
Well, I think also in part it centers upon the desirability of having a, residential two-dwelling or two-unit residential unit in an industrial place. It's not meant for that. It's meant for other places. The industrial, that's the nature of industrial, noises and vibrations and the like. It's not necessarily meant for housing. And so, I get what you're saying, but, the idea here is that at least the intent is that eventually there would not be housing located in the middle of an industrial zone. But of course, you guys have the authority to, make the decision and grant a variance if that's what you want. There's a process to do that. But the position would be is that it would require a variance because of the non-use and the non-occupancy for over a year.
And that's what has been the response of the VA at the moment? I mean, where do they sit, the actual property owner?
When I talked to them a year ago, they had indicated that if this property sold for less than $100,000 or was valued at less than $100,000, their probability of demoing it would be great, that they'd probably demo within a year. And it just so happened that this timing all happened, that I had a reminder on my calendar to follow with the VA and see what their stance was and if their intention was to demolish this property. And the day that I called, they indicated that there was water and they had concerns that the water was not turned off at the meter. So I went over to the property and just did evaluation of it. And I said, these are the conditions here. It's not conforming, it's been non-use. And I wrote up the letter indicating, we're requesting this. And at that time, they indicated that they had an interested party in the property and that they would acknowledge or would have to acknowledge the letter that was sent for the request for demolition.
Justin?
Does the VA own the house next door as well, or is that
That's a privately owned house.
Okay. And with this being a duplex, there'd be some parking. The Odyssey is not very adequate parking in that driveway. So there'd be on-street parking then, I'm guessing?
Probably be some on-street parking, but I think they could stack vehicles.
Is there parking on both sides of the road?
No, just one,
On the
but I think
south
it'd be
side.
deep enough to get stacked vehicles in there, but it would be, you know, it always lends itself to parking issues.
Scott, did you have a?
If you had to follow a variance process, I mean, you're probably looking at mid-December before you even get an answer, I would bet. Is that not true, Rolf, or Gordon?
Yeah.
Yeah. Would that be still within your realm or not?
Still, yeah, still would be feasible.
And if they turned you down, then what would you, that would be?
I mean, that's kind of the whole point of my question, is
They're
I would
gonna-
put that question on the current owner's back and say, you know what? I'd be interested in purchasing this property if you can give me a variance. And you can assist in the variance process and maybe even be their spokesman, but at least that keeps you away from actually purchasing the property without that further assurance, and bring it through that process, and if you're granted the variance, then you got something. If you're not granted the variance, then you know where you stand. I mean, I understand your tight time
Yeah,
constraints,
part of
but.
the issue is, you know, I put a verbal agreement on it before this happened.
No,
and-
contracts involving real estate have to be in writing.
Yes, I understand
So it's an
that.
unenforceable verbal arrangement.
Yep, still my
Uh,
word.
Still on your word, still on
Still
their
my
word.
word.
They've indicated, I believe, is that it's a, or at least you've indicated, is this is something that is not a done deal, you can back out of it. And maybe what you need to do is have a further conversation with the current owner and throw that out to them. I mean, this maybe gives you even more bargaining position, knowing what the city's position is on this thing with them. And, you know, maybe it could even work towards your favor. But I think, just to be honest, I think is that to alleviate any potential risk coming to you, I'd put the burden on them.
Ron?
Bill, from the standpoint of just economics, we have a lot there that's gonna, now, let's say it goes the way of, whatever we do, I don't know, demo or, you know, so, not much for tax.
$397.50.
Okay, and so if he builds something on it and improves it, what does that do for us?
Well, I'm sure if it's improved, the valuation would go up. So, I mean, I'm sure taxes would go up on that.
Yeah.
And the other question would be, if it was demolished and resold, you know, then what goes there?
Mhm.
Do they wind up buying out the, you know, you could start making assumptions of what else would happen and then what would go there and what would that tax impact be. So,
But we don't have a buyer for the what-ifs.
Right.
We just have a buyer right now for the, as
Right.
it is. Yeah.
Your Honor. I would just suggest that, we're not gonna discuss nothing tonight about it, because it's gotta go through the process. And so if you want to continue the process with the VA or yourself, that's up to you. And then whatever the planning commission comes up back to us with, then we'll make that decision, because we're not gonna make a decision tonight without going through the process. We can't. And so that's my suggestion, and I don't know if anybody else has got any, but I mean, that's what I think should be done.
I think that's sound
Can-
advice.
Can we clarify what the process is?
Well, you'd have to start with April, and then,
So what your process would be is you'd be applying for variances or zoning. The variance would be requesting that a non-conforming use for residential duplex would be permitted in an I-2 zone. Then there'd be the three variable test that's applied to any variance that's applied for, and that would be, does this use conform with the zoning in which you're requesting? Does this variance detract or add value to the zone that you're proposing this variance to? And the third one is this a unique situation that's unique to the property that's not caused by the owner?
Okay. Thank you, appreciate your time.
Thank you. That was the extent of the Juniors. Okay. Then there being no further business items, we will just have some miscellaneous announcements. Tomorrow, obviously, is November 8th, and the polls are open from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. And we ask you to exercise your constitutional right to vote And the city's admonition this year is be a voter. And we all probably are sick and tired of the national political scene and so on, but we have some extremely important state and local races that need your vote and need your attention to the state amendment for the constitutional amendment for legislative salaries and so on. And locally, we have a very important referendum for a sales tax for the library. And so your vote is extremely important this year in every which way. So please, be a voter.
Your Honor, could we just add the Supreme Court, Minnesota Supreme Court? It's a very important vote.
That's fine.
Thanks.
Absolutely. It's noted. On November 16th at 11:45, we will be canvassing the election results. At 12 o'clock on the 16th will be a Public Works and Safety Committee meeting. Then November 21st, oh, by the way, I forgot, November 11th, the city facilities will be closed for Veterans Day holiday. Then moving back down to the 21st, we will have a 5:30 city council meeting. And November 24th and 25th, facilities will be closed for the Thanksgiving holiday. Lots of things coming up.
Your Honor,
Yes?
is the canvassing required by every councilman has to be at that? Is that not true, Lynn? Just
We have to have at least 5 affirmative votes.
5, okay.
Okay, thank you. Meeting adjourned.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.